I've seen guys walking with these massive attitudes. They try to like bully everybody, and the senior guys are like, okay, let's spar, and they get little bit roughed around, and they don't sometimes think so. But usually, what I've noticed now is people get humble. They're like, okay, I'm not all that. I'm not this movie character who has dark past and wants to go in this vengeance thing. I want to learn. Like, you get to that, you're good.
I'm losing time again. Try to figure out who I am. Here's the road. Let's see how we'll see.
Alright guys, welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Abdul and you are here with the boys. We have Jason Hulangamu and Shavi Bandara. And we are back with a very, very special guest. He is a talented, skilled mixed martial artist. I think Jason has a very interesting intro for him.
So yeah, thanks Abdul, and I think everyone knows who Superman is, obviously. Well, today's guest is the closest thing you can get to a Sri Lankan Superman. I say he's like a Superman because Superman's pretty average when he does his day job. What he does during the day, he's an IT consultant. That's what he does by profession. But also, if this IT consultant could have one superpower, I think that superpower would be handing out free ass whoopings with his insane martial arts skills. So yeah, today's guest is the head coach at the Shed Arcade. And also, if anyone wants a free ass whooping, just ring him up. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Prageeth Thoradeniya.
Let's go.
Thanks, guys. Wow.
First ass whipping goes to Jason probably,
That was like out of the box. That was great.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast,
Thank you,
Coach. How's it
Thanks
going?
for having me here, guys.
How are you?
Doing good, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're fine.
Very good.
Managing after all the technical issues we were having before.
Starting up.
It seems much better now. So it's okay.
Yeah,
it is much
It
better
comes
now.
with time. Yeah. Jason touched up on a few things. We want to go a little bit more detailed into some of the things that you do. Some of the things that we found out is you are certified Phase 1 Escape to gain safety instructor under Jeet Kune Do Athletic Association.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you're also an instructor and coordinator at Sri Lanka School of Jeet Kune Do. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, because to be honest, I'm right. It's Jeet Kune Do, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an assistant instructor with Coach T. Coach Titra. He's another coach at the Shed. So I train with him for Jeet Kune, and sometimes I help him train the others as well.
Right, perfect. And then you also trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Karate, and Krav Maga, right?
Yeah, I did Krav Maga for a short time in New Zealand for about 2 years. But mostly my training was in mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, perfect. And so with that, we want to ask you what got you into martial arts. Like, where did all this start?
Where did it start? Like, how did you grow up and choose this?
So I was not an athletic kid at all. Right? I didn't do any kind of sports in school. But I think when I was a kid, for some reason, my parents enrolled me in a karate class. It was done by Master Nanda Sirivadana, Kyokushin Karate. I think he was the head at the time, and he still is, I think, of his organization. And I trained there for a few years. I was like about 10 or something, like 10 or 12 or something when I joined.
Yeah.
A few years, and then as my O-levels came close, my parents were like, you have to go for tuition classes and stuff, so you have to stop training. So that stopped. Then I think school was interesting experience. I didn't do any kind of sports in school. All I did was debating and MUN. So it didn't make any sense. So But after school, I briefly went for like few taekwondo lessons, and that I didn't really pick that up. I some reason I think the instructor at that place I went to was not that um, uh, not someone I wanted to train under. Long term, I felt like it wasn't the right place to be. So I shifted my focus a little bit, and I actually had massive social anxiety. So
Okay.
I think I got bullied in school somewhere grade 9 onwards. It was pretty bad. I took it pretty badly, and I was not confident at all, especially talking to people face to face. So I was like, what am I scared of? I'm scared of getting hit, right? So and I was like, I need to do something that helps me like face other people, like not be afraid of anything. So that and other interesting life experiences led me to my first mixed martial arts class. That was in late 2009. It was Dr. Haren's mixed martial arts class. Back then it was called Colombo Fight Club. And man, I remember walking to that class because I had done karate before that, and I was like, yeah, I can kick pretty well. Walk in there and I see these guys hitting pads. It was you guys know you guys know Madhura from Ceylon Fight Club. He was there. Tiran, Mayur, all these senior Sri Lankan MMA guys, they were there. At the time they were training. Right? So I joined after them. So they were hitting pads, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this? This is insane! Like that's insane power!" Like it was like that's the first impression. And then when I first saw Jiu-Jitsu, I was like, "What the hell is this? What is this? Why are people like rolling around? That would work on me." Classic. I got proven wrong pretty fast, and I decided to stick with martial arts as a hobby. Actually, it wasn't really supposed to be any kind of a career for me. I just did it just to be able to fight, just to be able to protect myself and to feel good. And it's nice to go and train with the same bunch of people every day, and you bond with them, and it's a good way to socialize also. So I was enjoying all of that, and I was again I wasn't the best guy in the class. I was okay, um, but I kept going. People would come and go, but I kept on coming to class as much as I could. Then I left Sri Lanka for a few years. I did Krav Maga in New Zealand. Again, it was more self-defense based. I had really good instructor over there, Graham Lockhart. And when I came back here, I reconnected with one of my friends, Titira, or Coach T. And I learned some Jeet Kune Do with him. And we started doing self-defense projects across the country, especially for school children, because there's a lot of self-defense related issues happening in Sri Lanka, especially a lot of harassment. So it's something that we both want to do something about. So we went to different schools, did these programs, and then at all this time I was working as a business analyst. First I was a software engineer, then I worked as a business analyst. And at a point I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to open up my own academy and try to make that the main thing. So we opened up our own academy, and I started training people in MMA. And then we had other coaches join in as time went on for various other disciplines. But mostly our focus in our gym right now is for mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Jeet Kune Do. We also have boxing as well now. So little by little things started coming together, and I think when Abdul joined the gym, it was pretty like new. I think
it was pretty new.
Been functioning for a few months. Yeah.
Right. It was somewhere 20. Yeah, it was somewhere around 2016, if I'm right. I think around that year.
16. It should have been 16 or early 17 probably.
Yeah, something
and
like that.
I can remember there would be like 3 or 4 people in the MMA classes, and Abdul was one of them. And it was a crazy ride, man. I just kept on with it. I can't say I had a dream of teaching martial arts to people or like doing any of these things, but I enjoy sharing. I don't know everything. I always say this even to my students. I don't know everything, but what I know, I'll give you 100%. I enjoy doing that. And most of the time I see kids walking like me who have self-confidence issues and stuff, and it's nice to see them kind of learn the arts and get better self-esteem. It's that's the most rewarding thing for me. So actually, what Jason said, it's now the other way around. So I am actually, my main focus now is the shed, and that is the main work I do at the moment. ID stuff on the side, on and off. It used to be the other way around sometimes. It was this IT the main thing. And yeah, man. So that was the story, like very brief.
No, I think the reason behind starting all that is like really cool. The fact that you didn't want other people kind of experiencing whatever bad experiences you had, and making sure that they had someone to come to, and a way to because it's probably frustrating, right? Like getting shit on by other people and all that, but this kind of helps you let it loose, but also disciplines you and makes sure that because it's not about like fighting people. It's about knowing when you have to fight and if you have to fight. And all that. So
I think
the funniest thing is like I've not been in a fight since I started training.
I think that's the aura you're giving off.
Always avoid the fights.
I think there's something. I think there's something about your story that I think I can relate to a little bit, because when I was small, also I was really small. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, and growing up, I feel like I also had social anxiety, and it was difficult for me to communicate with people face to face. So like I feel like things changed when I started hitting the gym, and once I started sort of empowering myself, like once I do these small things, because it was a passion of mine to hit the gym, and after you enjoy it so much, it becomes like sort of a routine, and that sort of puts you in a position to feel more confident and more in control of yourself and your outcomes and whatnot. So I think that's also really interesting how that affects your mindset. But I want to ask you, like, how would you differentiate the different kinds of MMA styles that are there? Because I think for people who don't know much about it, when you say MMA, kickboxing, there's so many types of MMA, like levels, like as kickboxing, there's taekwondo, there's Krav Maga. I don't know, there's, like you said, Jeet Kune Do also. How would you differentiate those type of martial arts?
So it's like this. So MMA means mixed martial arts, right? So everything you mentioned are basically martial arts, except things like Krav Maga and Jeet Kune Do. They are also mixed martial arts systems. So they're like hybrid fighting styles. So you get like classic fighting styles like karate, Wing Chun Kung Fu, and boxing, kickboxing styles. But you also get hybrid styles like Krav Maga. Like Krav Maga, for example, is developed by the Israeli military. And that was originally, if I'm not mistaken, a combination of judo, karate, and boxing.
Yeah, I've heard it's very deadly.
On as time went on. It's all about self. It's there are three levels, as my instructor. There are three versions of it, as my instructor used to say. There's like one is a civilian version. It's all about self-defense. The other is a police version. It's all about restraining people. And the last one is military. It's all about like destroying people completely, like real world like combat, right? So it is designed for that, because that is unfortunately this world we live in. You need to know these skills in certain situations. So that's Krav Maga, and Jeet Kune Do is very similar. It was developed by Bruce Lee. His original martial arts style, I think he studied, was Wing Chun Kung Fu, and then later on he decided he wanted to try and incorporate other martial arts into his system. So he incorporated boxing, fencing footwork. Savat, it's like a French kickboxing. He incorporated the Filipino Kali, that's a stick and knife fighting system from the Philippines. He incorporated all these things, and he kind of made his own hybrid version of things. So that was called Junfan Jeet Kune Do. And so like that, there are many systems. Like there are like these standalone systems and hybrid systems. So mixed martial arts is basically bringing together as many things as possible from all of these things, but we are geared towards fighting in a competition or like a sports mindset. So it's going to be just you versus somebody else in a ring or a cage with a referee. So MMA, we train for that specific situation. You can apply what you learn in mixed martial arts for self-defense, but it's mostly geared towards sports fighting, right? You can, I mean, you definitely learn how to beat people up. Like you can,
Yeah.
you can acquire formidable skills because you learn distance, timing, how to generate power, stance. You learn how to fight someone on the ground. All these things you can learn in MMA, and that's great. But things like defending against someone who has a weapon, or like someone who's trying to protect another person against somebody else, like third party protection they call it. So those things, for example, are not. Oh, and also what we call mass attack scenarios, or like multiple
Yeah.
opponents. We don't cover those things in MMA. So that I would say is like the major difference. But MMA as a sport is probably the closest thing we have to a real street fight kind of situation, because it allows you to punch, kick, grapple, go on the ground, and there is a limited rule set which allows like which actually is for the safety of the fighters, and different organizations add or remove rules as they go. But basically, it's a form of sports fighting.
Also, when you were starting off, you were speaking a lot about social anxiety and stuff. So, while did you like once you started, going for your first classes and stuff, was it the fact that you were learning something like self-defense, discipline, and all this stuff, or did you actually like also enjoy the people that you had to train with, and was that also a part of helping you get through your social anxiety, or maybe better yourself, maybe? Or is it just a
Yeah,
mix of
actually, it
both?
was both. So it's both, because when I started, especially when I started with jiu-jitsu, if you guys have seen jiu-jitsu, it's very close contact, right? And I used to be a person who didn't really like people coming into my personal space. I like nobody really likes people coming to your personal space, but I couldn't really bear it. Like if somebody would be around like 3 feet away from me, that's like, no, I have to get out of that. I started panicking. But in jiu-jitsu, there's not even an inch between you and the other person. Like on the other person, he's on you, and it's sweaty, and you're trying to like squeeze, choke him, and he's trying to lock something. It's madness, right? But there's a method to the madness. The first, I think the first, even I would say for the first year or two, maybe I was training jiu-jitsu. It was very uncomfortable because it's a lifetime of this. How do you say, like lifetime of anxiety about distance, and I was getting over that. But once I learned to kind of relax, like because jiu-jitsu puts you in really, really difficult situations. Sometimes you get pinned under a person, and they're like putting all the weight on you, and you can barely breathe. Your face is getting pushed to the mat.
Yeah, like
You
claustrophobic and
have
all
to,
that as well.
yeah, claustrophobia hits you. Like if you have claustrophobia, it's difficult. Luckily I don't have it, but I know some guys who had it, but they managed to kind of work through it. You learn how to stay calm and kind of assess the situation and do, because in jiu-jitsu you in any kind of combat really, you're trying to minimize the amount of energy you waste, right? So if you're calm, you can do that. But if you're freaking out, and if you can't breathe and you're focusing on those things, you probably are not going to do a very efficient move. So you have to stay calm, and that really trained me to kind of calm down when people get close. So that helped. And the other thing, of course, the people, because when I started training, I started meeting more and more people who I would not normally meet, right? Different social backgrounds, but they all want one thing in common. They just want to learn how to fight. So I get, sometimes people just like me coming up, nerdy dudes who want to learn how to fight, or some guys who are already athletic who played rugby all their lives, and they're like, yeah, bro, I want to try this. You get those guys, but at school, for example, I wouldn't talk to people like that. I would be like, oh no, he's a scary guy.
Huge and shit.
But in this class, there's this camaraderie, right? So you realize, oh no, we have the same goal. Yes, we have different abilities physically, but we have the same kind of goal. So sometimes it's also interesting to see some people pick things up faster than the others, right? And MMA is such a wide set of skills. You see people like picking things up in different speeds. So everybody ends up helping each other in a good class. They're like, oh, I'll help you with your arm bars, or I'll help you with your kicks. And different people are good at different things. And especially in my academy, you see this, like, after class, people would walk up to, like, the seniors would talk among themselves, and they'll be like, you did that really cool move. How did you do it? And we discuss. So that kind of stuff, like, helps you feel like you have peers, and, it helps you move forward together. Like, Like you see those memes that go, you have the pack of the lions, everybody is moving forward in the same goal. That stuff you see in motivational posters, basically that.
Basically.
But that makes
So
sense.
that really
Yeah.
helped me actually. Yeah, that really helped me. That I think that probably got me over the anxiety thing a lot.
But I guess you still needed like to get over the, I don't know, for example, for me, like if I ever want to go to the gym, I always had to like, I don't, but like whenever I had to before, I always had to think, okay, no one is really watching me if I ever go to the gym, and like no one really gives a shit. So I think it will be the same thing with something like this, because you are going up against people who probably had more experience. And usually with fighting things, there's always going to be that one person who has like a bad mentality where they go to learn to fight because they want to mess people up. Like, I don't know if that's very common, but I feel like you do get the occasional, bad apple like that.
It's hard to just put a. I mean, sometimes you do get people walking in with a chip on their shoulder. They're like, maybe they went through a bad experience, or somebody beat them up or bullied them, or they got abused or something. Sometimes, yes, they do go crazy, and they don't like. The problem is this, right? You walk into a place full of trained fighters, and you try to hit them like hard during sparring and stuff. If you try to like dominate them, you're probably not going to work, because those guys have been doing it more than you.
Exactly.
So it's all about how that person handles it afterwards. I've seen guys walk in with these massive attitudes, they try to like bully everybody, and the senior guys are like, okay, let's spar, and they get a little roughed around, and they don't sometimes think so. But usually, what I've noticed now is people get humble. They're like, okay, I'm not all that. I'm not this movie character who has dark past and wants to go in this vengeance thing. I want to learn. Like, you get to that, you're good. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of people. Like, people want to fight. People with their mental. They're like, I don't need a corner. I just go in there, like, never back down. Like, just walk in.
Never back
It
down.
doesn't work like that in real life.
Yeah, it's a very movie
what,
mentality,
Yeah, mentality. It's interesting how I've seen so many different like results. So sometimes as the instructor, right, I shouldn't be saying this, but sometimes when people walk in, you're like, oh no, I don't like this guy. He's not someone I want to work with. But in a day or two, sometimes I see people change. Maybe in a month or so, they keep coming and the attitudes change. Like there's one guy, he's still training with us now. He's a bit big. I think he used to, when he doesn't realize how how much more mass he has over other people. So when he goes for sparring, other people, like especially against smaller guys, he goes a little bit hard, and they get hurt, right? So we had to point this out to him a few times, and then some of the other instructors and I were talking like, this guy have an attitude or what? But then when we spoke to him and over, and we just tried to tell him that you should take care of your training partners, and you should be mindful of how much force you put in during sparring. He actually changed, and now he's like very conscious about how he's doing. And he actually told me like a few days ago as well, like he was like, I used to be like this back then, now I'm better, right? I was like, yeah, much better. So you get cases like that. And yes, you do get people who walk in, sometimes they're like, oh, let's see what you got. And I had too many movies, I think.
Yeah, of course. But more often than not, I guess people are capable of changing for the better and stuff, and that happens a lot.
Yeah. People are actually, I've seen some really good things happen to a lot of people. Like they've actually like learned and evolved through the process.
I remember when I was training with you, when it came to the boxing aspect of Muay Thai, I remember asking you if I could train like Mike Tyson, because you obviously know how he trains. He fights very close to himself, and like he dodges with his arms and all of that. Yeah, like did you have someone like that? When you were training, when you just started, did you have someone that you found as your inspiration? Like obviously Mike Tyson, Conor McGregor, those are big inspiration for the current generation. But for you, did you have anyone like that?
Yeah, I actually looked up for the MMA scene. I looked up to people like Bas Rutten and George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre.
I really enjoy them. I mean, their fights are great. And as people, as martial artists, I feel like they really have it down, like what it means to be like a real warrior. Like they're like, so it's very. When I started out, those were my idols. Then later on, as I got to know more and more people, I started looking up to people like Senchai, who is a Muay Thai fighter, um, and this Marcelo Garcia, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu champions in the world. Then my own professors, Professor Arun from India and Professor Rodrigo from Brazil. They're really good. Once I met them, I was like, wow, these guys are great. Like so calm, so cool. That's the kind of person I want to be. And a huge inspiration for me, again, were my two coaches. One of my, actually three, Dr. Hared. Yeah, he's the way he would just accept any challenge. I really like that. Like, he didn't care. He would be like, yeah, you want to go? We'll go. That's his attitude. I really like that. For me, because I had a lot of anxiety, I was like, that's really cool. Then Coach Duncan, who's my Muay Thai coach, he's really calm, cool, collected guy. And he's about 50 plus now, and he can still kick all of our butts collectively. So that's a big inspiration for me. And Sifu Kirk, who's one of our Jeet Kune Do instructors who visited us from America. He's one of the best martial arts instructors I've ever had the pleasure to work with and to learn under. He's a superb instructor, very calm, and he's strict, but he's strict in a way where he would talk to you in a very, like, if you do something wrong, he would just say it in a stern kind of way. He wouldn't shout at you, yell at you, and I was like, he was very firm, and I was like, yeah, that's. And again, he's also I think he's about 60 or something now, and he's like, I was very fit, and I was thinking, like, at that age I want to become like that. So as I grow, as I get to know more people, I find more and more inspiring characters, because as a newbie, you'd see people who are always on the media, and you have some great characters there too, but there are so many martial artists out there who you don't really see on media and who have great stories. You just meet them as you go in the journey. So that's been pretty inspiring also.
So you, along your path, you have obviously, I'm guessing you have taken part in a few tournaments and stuff as well. Have you ever had any like really bad injuries or anything coming when dealing with?
Not from tournaments, only from training.
Oh yeah, from training or anything.
Yeah, training. Tournament injuries. Actually, yeah, any injuries? No injuries from tournaments. But training for tournaments, I've been injured. Trying to do stupid things. But that's my fault. The tournaments, usually they're okay. Most tournaments in Sri Lanka are very safe. Sometimes you get some tournaments where the judges and the referees aren't really sure of what they're doing. That's a little bit scary, but otherwise, usually people take a lot of precautions. So very rarely you see bad injuries. You might see a knockout though, that's scary. But otherwise, sometimes shoulders might pop out, but nothing so far has happened to me.
Jesus.
That's about that. But at the moment, I am not competing at all. So I don't think I'll be competing in the future. I'm just helping others compete. So yeah, it's training accidents, man. Those are the things that will get you. So to be careful with those.
So I'm guessing as an instructor, like if you see a training injury happen or something, you have to be prepared for it, right? Like, I mean, you can't lose your cool as well. Like if you see somebody, pop a shoulder, like can you pop a shoulder back in?
Okay, I don't pop shoulders back in, because I think you need to know how to do that specifically, otherwise you can mess it up. What I do is we kind of hold it in place and get the guy to the hospital as soon as possible. Because if you're certified in that, yes, you don't want to take a risk, and I'm not comfortable doing that kind of thing. But things like concussions and all, we can we get the guy to sit down and make sure he gets enough medical attention. I think scary ones, I've only seen like a few bad accidents. Once, one of my MMA guys, his ACL snap. That's ligament in the knee, and that was really sad because he's a young guy and he has to get surgery. But it's not the end of the world. He can rehab and can get full rehab and right?
Yeah, but
it'll take a while to recover though.
Yeah.
It was an accident. It's a complete accident, and I felt really bad to see it. There's nothing anybody could really do about it. And then once another guy, can't remember who fought the previous day. The previous day there was a UFC fight. I can't remember who the fighters were. One guy kicked the other guy. and the person who got kicked caught the kick. The other guy did this flying kick with the other leg and knocked this person out. Right? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Was it
I think
Uriah
so.
Hall? I can't remember. It was in UFC. The next day in sparring, this guy, one of the guys tries it out. I'm not going to mention names because I know you're watching this. One of the guys did this and he landed flat on his face.
Oh, dude.
Hands up flat. He was out. He was knocked out. I was like, no. Oh no. And I walked him. I was like, stay calm. My first thought, is he dead? And he's not dead. Then I realized, then he started coming to, then we got him in recovery. I checked his pupils and everything. Made sure he went to a doctor afterwards. And I was like, why did you do that? He's like, I don't know. I just want to try it out. I was like, okay. Maybe keep your hands up the next time. So he had his hands down by his sides and he went smack on the floor. Like, that was really scary. Those two were the scariest ones. I've seen a few shoulder dislocations, but most of the time those are for it happens to people who've already dislocated their shoulder. So usually they're like, oh, I'll pop it back. So there are guys who pop it back in themselves. Yeah, it's fine. And then like, wow, that's cool. And then sometimes, we have to take them to hospital. But this very rarely happens in academy because we take very, very good care of each other. Sparring usually, if I am watching sparring, it's very light. Usually, unless the seniors want to go hard sparring, that's fine with me. But everybody else is just light sparring. Even in jiu-jitsu, I'm always watching the guys to make sure that they're not going the wrong way. Sometimes people who are not experienced, when they're rolling in a certain way, they might put their wrist like this and get snapped. So those things I point out before it happens. And we always discuss safety. Like I always tell the guys, for example, not to stand with their back to the training area, to the mat, because that's where people, start sparring and they'll come and hit you. Everybody falls down. Somebody falls on somebody's ankle, and that's how these things happen.
Jeez.
So safety is huge for us. But injuries, when they happen, man, it's sad. It's upsetting to see at first. Then after that, because you can't train for a while, that's a horrible feeling. It's the worst feeling.
I guess, I don't know. I have not seen a lot. I've seen a lot of like football injuries, and those look nasty as fuck as well. So like,
yeah.
I can imagine what like more contact would lead to.
Yeah. Usually it's just a lot of bruises after classes, but then nothing much, nothing major.
Yeah, and also I have to ask you. Now we all know Mike Tyson's coming back, returning for a fight, and like when you watch his videos, you can see his conditioning even now. Like he looks like he's probably at his peak. Like I've watched so many videos of Mike Tyson training. Like this year at least, or like a few months ago. He seems like he's always in shape. Like, do you have any predictions for like this fight? Because I think it's gonna happen tomorrow or day after. It's about to happen.
I am biased. I am very biased for Mike Tyson.
Oh really?
I'm a fan of his, so I am biased towards it. But fights can go anyway. But the thing with him is like he never really lost touch. I think like maybe he got a bit rusty when he didn't train, but he never if you've seen him do choreography for those movies he were in, like the Ip Man movies, and sometimes he would show fighters like how he does the bob weave and he's punching. You can see that he never really lost his body mechanics. It's there, man. Like if you train as long as Mike Tyson, it's always in you. And especially exceptional case like him, like he's fast, he's powerful, and his body is kind of built for that. Like he's like, that guy, I'm sure he's made up of fast twitch fibers. He's so fast. And so I am biased for Mike Tyson again, but fights can go anyway. But I'm just really it's awesome how he's coming back at that age to fight. And it's not boxing is not something to take lightly, because there's a lot of punches to the face, punches to the head. So there's a lot of head trauma there. At that age, going into something like boxing,
probably not a good idea if you think about it, to be honest. Because you get a lot of...
I mean, that's his passion, so I can't really say it's good or bad, but that's guts, man. That takes a lot of guts.
True.
It's been like 4 years since you started the shed? what was the process like when you just started? Like, how did it feel, turning that as a passion into a career? I mean, it must have been tough. Everyone who takes that turning point in their life, usually, there's a lot of struggle with it. But like, how was the process like for you?
It was not easy because when I started out, it was me and Coach T. That's it. The other instructors weren't there in the beginning. They joined a little bit later on as time went on. So when we started, like we are in our 30s, right? So compared to most martial arts instructors in Sri Lanka, we are pretty young, like the most established. So the first thing was actually getting our names known, right? Because we were not really known for anything else other than our random self-defense workshops. So people didn't really, if you don't know somebody, you don't trust to train under them, right? So building the name was really hard at first. Then actually understanding the nuances that come with managing a fight gym. It's not even a normal gym, right? It's not a normal gym where you have treadmills and weights.
Yeah, it's
a different place with punching bags and focus mitts, and then it's a completely different thing. And then people's mentality is different to a normal gym. So the challenges that came with those, that's different. And then to manage instructors who later on joined and any issues they had, that those things, it was all a learning process. It was not like, I can't say it was like a straight line like this.
Yeah.
We made mistakes. Sometimes we still do. It's not been easy. Sometimes facing up to the mistakes you made in managing things sometimes, but it's what it is. You just have to make the best of it and keep moving forward. In the beginning, the biggest challenge, like I said, I'll tell you a funny story about this. Biggest challenge was getting our name out, right? So my friend Coach T, he was like, let's print posters. Because all these other martial arts class, they have posters on the road, right? So you're like,
yeah, you'll always see those.
Like Kung Fu, right? And I told him, I'm not going to pose like this in front of anything. Just put who we are, that's it. So we printed some posters. We went in the morning at around 5 or 4 o'clock in the morning, all over Nugegoda and Dehibal and places like that. Wherever we saw posters, we pasted our poster, and we were very happy with ourselves. And we were coming back home, and we were just looking at the places where we did all this like canvassing. Not a single one of our posters was there. They were completely replaced by other tuition class posters.
Oh my
we were
god!
Like, this is not working, is it? And then we decided, let's just stick to Facebook marketing. But what actually helped us was, of course, Facebook and Google, that gets your name, and Instagram, that gets your identity across. But what actually helps us was other people who train with us referring us to other people, because they understood it's a good place to train, good instructors, so they recommend it to other people. And that is something that money can't buy. That is something that comes with your work. So once that, because we really put like 100% into whatever we're doing, so when that started happening, things were getting better. Then we started focusing more on developing a quality kind of training program for each of our systems. And I remember we had some concerns because we were up and coming MMA gym, right? And there were so many other MMA places around us. And in Nugegoda itself, there are a few MMA classes around Nugegoda. So one of my friends was like, how are you going to compete with these guys? Are you going to reduce your fees or do something? I said, I'm not going to do, it's going to be we are just going to do the best we can as instructors, right? Because sometimes people might, they might like the vibe of this class over the other classes, or they might like the vibe of that class over this class. So people who come here will come here. People who go there will go there. It's like the whole law of attraction thing, right? If you whatever frequency, you attract that. Yeah. So I really believe that, and that actually worked because I never really thought about competing with or against other gyms in a business sense.
You just did your thing.
Yeah, I just did my thing, and I tried. I mean, it was and try to learn as much as possible. But if talking to more senior people than us from different countries, and then thankfully Coach Duncan joined us as well, so I learned a lot of Muay Thai from him. And but we never really, in my opinion, I like to keep the competition in the cage or the mat. between clubs, and I don't want any other kind of weird competition where you're like cutting each other and saying this place is bad, don't go there.
Yeah.
I prefer not to have that, because that's something I think it happens. I think in Sri Lanka a lot, and I've been guilty of this in the past. Like, places I've worked, there's a lot of talking behind the back going on, so I kind of feel the same. So that actually worked, like actually for developing something like with quality that other people appreciate and other people recommend to other people. That actually helped. That was actually our marketing. Even now, you don't really see many ads for the shed. Right? You won't see any sponsored ads, because it's just a Facebook page and Instagram. That's it.
No,
Like,
but
when I
word of
think about
mouth,
it
I think,
now-
is the most effective, right?
Yeah, this is true. But when I
think
think
about
about
it
it now, when I think about it now, I remember when I just started with you, we were training in your apartment, if I'm right. The rooftop of your apartment. I still remember the process.
You joined from those days, right?
Yeah, I still remember the process of heading to like the shed was located right next to your apartment, if I'm right. And it's like you walk by there, and like one day you told me,
the rooftop. Right.
Yes, we used to train the rooftop, and like I still remember it was nice because it was like a very like a personal space up there, and you had the punching bag, you had a few mats there. And I remember like one day I come for your class, and you're like, Abdul, just come by, walk further ahead, there's a gate, come through there, and you can train there. And we go in there and be setting up everything, and it's so nice to see that 4 years later, because I think maybe, like, if I'm right, I wasn't sure that like I didn't know about the shit until maybe about 2 years ago, I think. Like I didn't know much about it.
Okay.
But I remember seeing the shed. Okay, I think I saw some person that I follow on Instagram just tagged the shed, and I was very curious because it looked like the place I used to train with you. So I clicked on it, and then I see
back then we didn't use the name the shed.
Yeah. Then I saw it sort of like it looks very similar to where I train. Then I looked at the instructors. I saw you, and then I was like, so it's nice to see that you've grown this much. Starting from where you were and to be where you are now. I think a lot of people come and train with you, and it's very like it's nice to see it after so long. You seem like a very humble and chilled out dude when I train with you, and for you to have all this, at least this much success, is really nice.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem, man. But I don't know if we have much more questions for you. I think you literally answered every single one of them. Shavi, Jason, do you have anything else?
I think maybe as a closing, real quick question I can ask you, because I'm super clueless about MMA and all that. I know absolutely nothing. Like, these guys at least watch all that. So my question would be, for someone like me, if they're interested, where do they begin, or like what is the starting process for?
Right. So if you want to do MMA, that is, right?
MMA, for example.
Okay. So MMA, I would recommend people to find a gym close to their place. Try it out and see first. Just try to figure out why you're doing it. So usually, like when somebody joins, usually we ask them like, why are you into MMA? Do you want to do it for self-defense or fitness or what? Because that really helps us kind of understand the student. So like if you are joining, it's good to understand why do you want to do this. Do you want to do this for self-defense or to look good or for fun? Maybe you like to study the art of physical combat. Some people are full nerds about that. Like that's basically what I like. So I mean, there's so many different approaches to it. So try to, I would advise people to go to different schools, try it out and see if it works for you, and see if the instructor is responsible and if he's attentive enough to you for you to progress. Because most gyms are great. They have great instructors who are like always trying to help you. In Sri Lanka, the other gyms most of the other gyms are great. But then on and off, you do find some places where the instructor has this big ego problem and he's like, he wants to show that he's the best guy and he hurts students. There are places like this on and off you'll find. I've been to such places. That's not fun. You want to avoid those places as much as you can. And also, while you're studying MMA in the gym, also it's good. There's so much material available online now on YouTube. more than ever now, right? You have strategies, you have basics, you have tips, training tips, and all these things, right? Then now more than ever, like when I started out, it was just like really basic stuff and like old copies of 80s self-defense videos on YouTube. Like that's what I used to see when I started. But now the content is beautiful. Like on Instagram, I follow some pages that's like technique of the day, and they do this cool thing. I'm like, whoa, how does that work? So even I'm still learning, right? I still like to pick things up and try it out and see how it works, and talk to my senior professors and in jiu-jitsu, and then Coach Duncan, and see, get their input. So like that, you want to always try to learn, right? Online or some way, and you can get on your way. The main thing is, in the beginning, it's going to be very difficult, because you will feel like, especially if you're self-conscious, you will feel like everyone else is better than you. But the reality is, if you just stick to it, and if you're consistent, just show up and train, and pay attention to what's going on in class. Don't be a dick to people in class. You'll be good. So that's pretty much it. You just have to just keep at it, and the most important part is just keep training. You have to just keep training.
You have to keep at it.
If I have to give you guys one thing, just keep training. That's all.
Don't give up, glove up. I like your t-shirt.
Probably when Shavi is down from Germany, we could drop by for a taste of what it's like.
We'll have a quick episode.
Yeah, of course. You could go to a place in Germany. Actually, there
is close by. There is a place. I've been thinking about it, which is why I kind of also asked.
People who know their stuff, they're quite level-headed, calm. It's usually the people who are like don't know much who go into that, I know UFC, bro, that mentality. That's the kind of people who,
I guess that comes from insecurity of wanting to show people that they know something, right? And that's why.
Yeah. To be honest, though, I was a little bit like that when I started. I was like, yeah, I'm training MMA. I want to fight people on street.
I think everyone is like that though at the start.
Yeah. Because you do learn some cool stuff that actually works. That you're like, maybe I'll get into a street fight and see, but it's not my idea. Don't do street fights.
No, I think that's natural. Like to want to show someone that you can do something. It's just how you show it is really important.
When Abdul and Devin and them started, it was all over social media. Like, we all knew they did MMA.
Oh, did you mention this?
I mean, yeah, it's yeah, I'm guilty of that. Straight up.
That's okay, man. I think even I've been there, like I told. So that's how it is.
Yeah, but I think for the most part we're done. I mean, that's the end of another episode, and thank you so much for joining us, Coach. You've been a very amazing guest.
Amazing having you here.
It was nice to have you on. It's nice to talk to you after so long.
Thank you very much for having me. Awesome. Yeah, man. And then good. I'm really glad that you brought back all those memories from the rooftop. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
It's not even in my head.
It's nice. It's nice. And I'm really happy for your success. Honestly, it's really nice to see that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of it.
Appreciate it. But yeah, that's the end of another episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe to us if you're new, and we'll see you next week.